Today, we're unpacking one of the most unbelievable stories in the history of neuroscience. It's about a man named Phineas Gage who survived an accident so horrific it should have killed him on the spot, but it didn't. Instead, what happened to him completely changed how we understand the human brain.
I mean, that sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, doesn't it? Not a history book. But this isn't fiction. It actually happened to a guy back in the 1840s, and believe it or not, the answer to that question unlocks some of the biggest secrets about who we are. Okay, so to really grasp just how profound this whole thing was, you have to meet the man Phineas was before his entire world got turned upside down.
By all accounts, this guy was the model employee. People who knew him said he was efficient, capable, and just great with his crew. In fact, his bosses thought he was one of their absolute best, a man you could trust with really dangerous, important work. He was organized, level-headed, and fair.
And all of that brings us to one specific day that changed absolutely everything. September 13th, 1848. You see, Phineas's job involved clearing away rock for new railroad tracks, and to do that, he used a really precise four-step blasting process. But on this particular day, a momentary distraction meant a critical mistake happened during step 3, adding the sand.
That's sand. It was crucial. It was supposed to act as a buffer to contain the blast. Without it, when Phineas brought his iron tamping rod down, it struck the rock directly. That created a spark, and that spark ignited all the explosive powder sitting right underneath it. And just like that, his tamping iron, this 13-pound, 3.5-foot-long metal spear, was instantly turned into a missile, rocketing straight up toward his face.
The iron shot up under his cheekbone, tore right through his brain behind his left eye, and blasted out the very top of his skull. And here's the most unbelievable part. He not only survived, but he was reportedly conscious and talking just minutes later. It's just incredible.
So he survived the unsurvivable. But as he started to recover, it became frighteningly clear that while the man lived, the Phineas Gage that everybody knew was gone forever.
The change was just jarring. I mean, it was like night and day. The once responsible, patient foreman was now impulsive and kind of rude. The super-organized planner who always thought ahead became careless and completely unreliable. It's as if his entire personality had been flipped upside down.
You know, his own doctor, John Harlow, really put it perfectly. It wasn't just that Phineas was a little different, it was as if the very balance that made him him had been totally destroyed.
His old railroad bosses, they couldn't rehire him. They just couldn't trust him anymore. He started using profane language that was seriously shocking for the 1840s. He'd make these grand plans and then just abandon them moments later, and he pretty much acted entirely on impulse, with no thought at all about the consequences.
Now, this is the point where a terrible personal tragedy becomes a full-blown scientific revolution. Phineas's accident was the key that unlocked a fundamental secret about how our brains actually work. So scientists studying his case realized that the tamping iron had specifically wiped out a huge part of his left frontal lobe. This was the first concrete, real-world evidence that linked this exact part of the brain directly to things like personality and how we behave in society. Think about that for a second. Before Phineas, a lot of people thought personality came from the heart, or that the brain just worked as one big blob. His case was undeniable proof that who we are, our ability to plan, to be patient, to fit in, is physically located right there, in the front of our heads.
Because of Phineas, this single, horrific accident sent ripples through the world of science that, honestly, we still feel to this day.
The impact was just massive. Gage's case didn't just tell us what the frontal lobe does, it basically kick-started modern brain mapping. It totally changed how we treat brain injuries, and it even gave us some of the first real evidence of neuroplasticity, the brain's incredible ability to try and rewire itself after damage.
And what's wild is that the story didn't end when Phineas died in 1860. Dr. Harlow's later reports turned the case into a scientific legend, and amazingly, the research is still going on. As recently as 2012, scientists used 3D imaging on Gage's actual skull to uncover new details about his injury.
And that's really the profound question Phineas Gage's story leaves us with. If the very essence of you, your personality, your choices, your sense of humor, all of it, lives in the physical tissue of your brain, then how much of you is really just biology? It's something to think about, for sure.